Well, I have said this for many, many, many years that Democrats, whether they realize it or not, seems to love to lose presidential elections when it's especially when those elections are fairly easy to win. I'm 51 years old. I saw this in 1988 with Michael Dukakis. And I saw how George Herbert Walker Bush beat up on Michael Dukakis, and he just sat there and took it. And I was bullied when I was in high school, and I graduated in 1988. And I saw myself in Michael Dukakis, the abuse that the man had, that what he put up with when he was campaigning for president. I was like, this is the same crap I went through when I was in high school. So I mean, you know, it, some people say come up the phrase politics is personal. Well, it's always been kind of personal with me. I've always favored the underdog in a lot of ways, and it's been expressed in my politics, third party politics, and benevolent people within one of the two major parties. I've always had that mindset. Everybody knew that the 2020 presidential primaries for the Democrats was going to be rather contentious. It was going to be blood sport, and that's pretty much what it was. Um, my positions. I'm upset that Bernie Sanders got his nomination stolen from him again a second time. Um, I'm a little upset that Bernie Sanders dropped out sooner than he should have or suspended his campaign. I'm upset the fact that he's been more compliant this time with the Democratic National Committee than he was the last time. And all that is because, from what I have gathered and hearing other commentators saying, and I tend to agree with them, that Bernie Sanders, in some ways, he's been tricked or conned into thinking that he might have played a role for Donald Trump getting elected in 2016, which is not true. Oh, I heard that all the time when I after for about the first couple of months after Donald Trump's victory, I've heard from many many of my progressive friends. Some of them I'm not no longer friends anymore because I was for Bernie Sanders and they were for Hillary Clinton. Um, I couldn't bring myself to vote for Hillary Clinton and voted for Jill Stein of the Green Party. I'm not sorry for supporting Bernie Sanders, and I'm not sorry for voting for Jill Stein. I never will be because Hillary Clinton was an awful candidate. But they managed to make a victim out of her. You know, she's a victim because she was this poor woman was deprived of being the first female president, and all you Bernie Sanders supporters and anybody a vote for anybody but Hillary Clinton was a vote for Donald Trump mentality. Not true, but that's what people claim. Um, and it really irked on me. She is a victim in the same way where by Chris Wallace interviewing Donald Trump recently, he was having this, oh, poor is me. I was treated so unfair. All I got to say to both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, get over it. Get over it. Hillary, you lost the election. Donald Trump, you bring it to on yourself as to why people don't like you. So I mean, you both just get over it. You both were worthless candidates anyway. It just reinforced why I'm glad I voted for what I voted for, no matter what the outcome was. But anyway, suffice to say, the 2020 primaries took place, and you had about 20 candidates running. and they had divided. They had to divide it by two separate nights. You know, about 10 one night and 10 the other. And so basically, in the very beginning, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they had their first big fight. She accused him of being a racist and talking about his racially questioned past, which she was absolutely correct to do so. Um, Joe Biden was a segregationist in his early years as a senator. Now, was he Governor George Wallace of Alabama or Lester Maddox of Georgia? Was he Senator Strom Thurmond of South Carolina or Senator Jesse Helms of North Carolina? No, I would not put him in there. He was one of the softer segregationists around, and and yeah, I mean, and still, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that. I mean, he's bad enough for his opposition to busing. But Kamala Harris has no room to criticize Joe Biden because as the Attorney General in California, I mean, she was responsible, just as responsible as Joe Biden later on with his 1994 crime bill for incarcerating a lot of minorities and keeping them in jail longer than they should have been, and her just just the way she went after nonviolent drug offenders. Uh, she was not exactly a friend of somebody who would be civil libertarians. And speaking of a civil libertarian, Tulsi Gabbard was absolutely spot on and correct to destroy Kamala Harris very early on. So and that's what she did. And she kind of led her way into Kamala Harris dropping out fairly early. Still, once again, I say thank you, Tulsi Gabbard. Um, as I said, Bernie Sanders was cheated along with Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, and Marianne Williamson's. All four of those candidates that the establishment hated. They hated these four people who were really, truly more of the tradition of the Democratic Party than your Pete Buttigieg or Amy Klobuchar or Beto O'Rourke or Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. Um, yeah, I mean, so I mean, but the thing about it is that they were corporate centrists, and that's how the Democrats operate these days. They're stuck on they're stuck on this 1990s mindset. That they have to get elected by standing for nothing except receiving corporate dollars. Oh, they'll virtue signal. They'll virtue signal, and they may use some gender neutral language, or they may go and they may go and tell you how much they're going to go out of their way to seek racial justice for people of color, which is good. They're going to show their support for the LGBTQ community, which is good, and they're going to stand up against this nonsense of Islamophobia. Again, all of that is good. Not undermining that, not understating that. But when it comes to income inequality and actually addressing it, all of a sudden these Democrats are too scared, and their comfort zone is to behave financially and economically and fiscal policy and on business policies to behave like 1980s and dare I say 1990s era moderate Republicans. And that's what the Democratic Party ended up being by 1992. Ended up being basically an inept, quasi, not quite social democratic party, but kind of, sort of is by default. And they kind of tiptoe away from that, and then they became basically Reagan light party. They were Reaganized again. You heard me talk about the Democratic Leadership Council, the DLC, and what a horrible organization it was, and it created the monstrosity. It's why the Democrats are garbage today in a lot of ways. Well, the difference between now getting to I'm going to get to Kamala Harris, but with this primaries that was bloodied, Bernie Sanders dropped out early because again he was convinced that he's the reason that Trump or played a role in Trump winning, which is not true. So he's been going out his way to be conciliatory and to be more cooperative with the Democratic establishment. He's not the only one. Tulsi Gabbard did the same thing. She went out of her way. She was despised by the establishment. They did everything they could to ignore her. Because back in 2016, she defended Bernie Sanders and she called out the DNC, and she kind of lost a favorable status. And Hillary Clinton hate her just as much as she hated Bernie Sanders, and so she was made to be a pariah. For me, Hillary Clinton hating Tulsi Gabbard made me love Tulsi Gabbard probably more than I should. But I digress. But she's made peace with the Democratic establishment by not endorsing Bernie Sanders this time, but endorsing Joe Biden. Same thing with Andrew Yang, although less controversial than Tulsi Gabbard. Marianne Williamson turned out to be the best of the three that I just mentioned, other than Bernie Sanders, that were disregarded by the Democratic establishment. She did the right thing. She supported Bernie Sanders. And although I do like Andrew Yang and Tulsi Gabbard, and I respect them both greatly, shame on you both for not endorsing Bernie Sanders. Endorsing Bernie Sanders was the right thing to do. National Task Force, Bernie Sanders people, Joe Biden people, trying to reconciliate and trying to do what they can to cooperate with each other. The difference between Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton was that Joe Biden is, even though he's probably more, he is more conservative than Hillary Clinton. He's also nicer than Hillary Clinton. So, Joe Biden is kind of, I mean, when you take away everything that's wrong about Joe Biden's politics, as far as being a corporate centrist and a warmonger and a self segregationist, even back in the early 70s, you take all that away, he comes across as kind of a likable guy. And so, I mean, that's what happened with him. He came in, and Bernie Sanders got a lot of empathy, and Joe Biden treated him well when he came into the Senate, because Bernie Sanders was kind of an outsider at that time, and so Joe Biden was one of the people that reached out and said, hey, everything's going to be okay. As a U.S. senator, when he was U.S. senator himself, prior to being Barack Obama's vice presidential candidate. But after the rigging was done, for many, many, many months, there were names being thrown around. Well, who will Joe Biden choose as his running mate? Who will he choose? Well, I will tell you, some names popped up. Stacey Abrams' name popped up. Greta Whitmer's name, Amy Klobuchar, Susan Rice, Elizabeth Warren. And I think there might have been a few others, but those were the main names that came up. I can tell you, I'm really am not impressed with any of these names that came up. All of them had problems, but I will say that I would say if you're trying to get the Midwest, I would have said Greta Whitmer would have been a good choice. But she's very, very conservative in a lot of ways. She opposes Medicare for all, so I'm not particularly impressed by her. Um, Susan Rice, Stacey Abrams, Amy Klobuchar all had their problems. Um, I am still kind of angry with Elizabeth Warren because of her role in Bernie Sanders being cheated. I didn't mind that they were friendly competition at first, but I just think that what Elizabeth Warren did to Bernie Sanders, she stabbed Bernie Sanders in the back, not once, but three times at the very least. She stabbed him in the back in 2016 by choosing Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. Um, because Hillary Clinton talked to her privately, talking about the possibility of her being a running mate in 2016, she tricked Elizabeth Warren. I can kind of overlook it considering the circumstances. I think a whole lot better of Bill de Blasio in 2020 than I did in 2016, for example. Um, in 2020, she went and indirectly and not so indirectly accused Bernie Sanders of sexism, which is absolutely ridiculous. Um, and then she stayed in the primaries long enough to ruin his chances in Massachusetts, giving the victory to Joe Biden. And then afterwards, she dropped out and endorsed Joe Biden. Um, and in spite of the other problems she may have ideologically, she's not. I never expected her to be right on the same page with Bernie Sanders, but she was theoretically one of the better senators in the U.S. Senate, and I regarded her at that time. But considering what she did against Bernie Sanders and her kind of waffling on Medicare for all, which might not be entirely her fault. I think again is the American mindset, the American exceptionalism. You can't think beyond how the United States do things. So the idea of abolishing private health insurance companies just seems so radical and crazy, and oh my god, that is just so private health insurance. You just can't mean getting rid of the private health insurance companies. Yes, I can. um and I'll tell you, Bernie Sanders is too nice. Medicare for all is what he advocates. I advocate socialized medicine, National Health Service. I'm actually to Bernie Sanders left on healthcare, and I am significantly far to the left of Bernie Sanders on healthcare because I would actually put the people that run the insurance companies in prison for the people that they killed all these years. Not only that, with all the civil unrest going on and all the looting and rioting that's real or imagined, because Fox News do a lot of fake news, by the way. They are the masters of fake news. They acting like that there's a lot of violent riots going on, and there might be in certain little areas. But for those that engages in this violence and all of that, I'm a peaceful guy. But if you're going to do that, find an empty private health insurance company building to do that too. If you must do that, and there's not an entity that serves it more in this country today than private health insurance. And I'm saying this in jest. I do not want the FBI coming up and it's like, well, what do you mean you're endorsing violence? I'm saying this in jest. I am nothing specific. I'm just saying in jest. But the thing about it is, what I have to say is that all these choices. What did Joe Biden do? He chose Kamala Harris. Now, if you're going to choose somebody from California, I think that Barbara Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California, would have been an excellent choice. She's got an impeccable anti-war record that's actually better than Bernie Sanders, better than Tulsi Gabbard. In the wake of 9/11, she was the only member of Congress that voted against even going into Afghanistan. And with Afghanistan, even though I'm a pacifist, compared to that of Iraq, it might have been. I'm slightly more understanding about Afghanistan, but it's time to get out of Afghanistan. And for some reason, we can't get out of Afghanistan, no matter what we do. The military-industrial complex and the neocons will not allow it, and I mean the neocons in both parties. And so, while the right wing are going around calling Congresswoman Ilhan Omar an anti-Semite and accusing her of being a member of Al Qaeda, um, Ilhan Omar, as I said this before, and I'll say it again because I'm repeating myself, but these things got to be repeated to make my point, you know, made. Ilhan Omar is trying to save American people's lives by withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan. And not that I want to give Donald Trump any chance of victory, but if he really, really, really wanted to win this election, all he has to do is just tell the neocons and the military-industrial complex to go to hell. We're going to remove the troops from Afghanistan, whether you like it or not. As I said, I think that he would win. Not that I want him to win, but if he, if he really was interested in being the outsider he claimed he is, and he's really just an establishment Republican when it comes right down to it. All that straight shooting talk of 2016 and that fake populism was all fake. Look what he's done. He's appeased all the never Trumpers. And so now you're going to have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris facing Donald Trump and Mike Pence. And I mean, she's tied in with Hillary Clinton, so she's basically another Hillary Clinton clone. So you just can't get away from that 1990s Clinton era Democratic Party. And choosing Kamala Harris as the running mate will just continue the Democratic Party's downward spiral in that regard. So, I mean, I hate to say this, but this is an easy election for the Democrats to win. They could win this election. They could win this election by campaigning on Medicare for all and meaning it. They can win this election by campaigning on the Green New Deal and meaning it. They can campaign on free college and mean it. They can campaign on getting us out of all these neocon wars abroad and mean it. There's a lot of people out there from all walks of life. You might even get some sensible Republicans to vote for that because I mean, people feel like they've been had by the system for many years. And while Donald Trump spoke to the anger of a lot of people, saying he was going to fight for them, he did not. And Hillary Clinton just acted like, well, nothing's wrong with the status quo. It just proves my point why Bernie Sanders was the candidate to defeat Donald Trump. If they would have nominated Bernie Sanders in 2016, we would not have a Donald Trump. We would have a second term of Bernie Sanders. That's what we'd be having. And 2020 was a way to make up for 2016. But no. The establishment, the corporate wing of the Democratic Party, the Bill and Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, Dianne Feinstein, Joe Manchin wing won this thing, and we are all going to lose as a result. And David Pakman said just recently, I am actually torn myself whether what to do with this election. I have voted third party all my life, but we cannot have another second term. We cannot have a second term of Donald Trump for president. We just cannot. I mean, he is disastrous. He's showing fascistic impulses, wanting to basically, if he had his way, he'll have the United States government invading so-called troublemaking cities and arresting people for political dissent. And they claim he wants to go after looters. That's not it. They want to go after anybody that opposes Trump. Make an example. he has Augusto Pinochet style impulses, it looks like. And as a civil libertarian, I am deeply, deeply um, bothered by this. And so David Peckman said we should not be too complacent about the 2020 election. And so we just got to see to it that Donald Trump is not reelected. And that's what I got to say about that right now. I'm Bernie Bro. If you like what you heard today, please press like. If you hate it, press dislike. Comment either way. Help build up this channel. Need I say this more? But I'm trying to make this channel relevant to the news. I have an angle of democratic socialism, social democracy, or just plain old socialism, which is what I believe in and have been believing in for the past 25, 26 years. And so, hey, I was a socialist before it became cool. So anyway, I hope that you will all consider subscribing to this channel. And once again, until we talk and chat, peace. And Bernie Sanders for president 2024. I'm not kidding.